She uncovered millions in fraud, exposed citywide corruption, and then they erased her. Fired, blacklisted, left with nothing. But the worst part, the people she tried to save turned their backs. By the time Olivia Serrano turned 38, she had learned the art of silence. Not the kind that stems from ignorance or fear, no. Olivia was well-educated, sharp as a scalpel, and not easily scared. It was the silence of someone who had spent years in boardrooms where speaking too boldly meant you didn't get invited back. Or worse, where the people you spoke against found ways to quietly erase you. She'd been the rising star of Whitmore and Lane, a private construction firm with a government portfolio worth hundreds of millions. Urban development, schools, correctional facilities, public housing. She could walk past half a dozen buildings in the city and say, I made that happen. She wasn't a builder, not really. She was a deal closer. The woman who sat across from city officials and smiled just the right amount. The woman who could slice a $78 million bid down to $74.05, knowing they inflate the difference later through unexpected logistical costs. Everyone in her world nodded along. That was the game. But then came a folder. It had arrived on her desk anonymously, tucked inside an interoffice envelope without a name. The kind of thing interns used when they were still figuring out how to email attachments. It was supposed to be a routine subcontractor compliance file. Instead, it contained photos, internal invoices, signed affidavits. Documents Olivia recognized instantly, but with numbers and signatures that made her stomach curdle. It wasn't one contract, it was several, year after year. A pattern of bloated costs, ghost laborers, falsified environmental clearances. Someone had been siphoning public funds through shell companies, and Whitmore and Lane was either criminally negligent or deeply complicit. Olivia stared at the papers for a long time. She didn't call anyone. She didn't breathe a word at home to Marco, her fiancé of 2 years, a quiet high school chemistry teacher who loved crossword puzzles and hated politics. She didn't even tell her sister Danny, the closest thing she had to a best friend. Instead, she did something reckless. She started digging. Her nights turned into late research sessions in her home office, the blue light of her laptop painting her face ghostly. She traced payments, mapped corporate names, cross-referenced city permits with actual site visits. It was exhausting. She lost sleep, skipped meals, started checking her rearview mirror more than necessary. When she finally brought her findings to the CEO, Charles Whitmore, he didn't even flinch. "Where'd you get this?" he asked calmly, flipping through the documents as if she'd handed him a breakfast menu. "It came to me anonymously." He looked up, then let's keep it that way. Something in Olivia's chest cracked. "What do you mean?" Charles sighed, laced his fingers together, and leaned forward. "Olivia, you're a smart woman, you're valuable to this company, but you need to understand you go to the authorities with this and you won't just lose your job, you'll be radioactive. No one will hire you. You'll be that girl who made a scene. The woman who cost the city millions in delays, lawsuits, audits." She stood, so I should just ignore it. "No, you should trust that the people who know how this business works are already handling it." There it was, the language of dismissal dressed up in diplomacy. Olivia walked out. 3 weeks later, she blew the whistle, not quietly, not discreetly. She contacted the state inspector general's office. She provided documents, she testified. And just like that, the ground vanished beneath her. First came the press conference. A quick prim statement by Whitmore and Lane. "We take these allegations seriously, though we believe them to be unfounded. Ms. Serrano no longer represents this company." Then the media turned. An anonymous source leaked that Olivia had been passed over for a promotion, painting her as a disgruntled employee with an axe to grind. Her inbox filled with threats. Her phone rang with no one on the other end. Then her contracts dried up, clients ghosted her, her LinkedIn profile became a graveyard. And finally, Marco left. He didn't yell, didn't even cry, just stood in the doorway with a packed duffel and said, "I'm not cut out for this kind of war, Liv." Now she was alone. Unemployed, disgraced in her industry, praised by activists but blacklisted by anyone who mattered. Every morning she woke up in the same apartment, made the same coffee, sat at the same desk, and asked herself if she'd made a terrible mistake. But in the distance something stirred, because the truth, once let loose, has a way of crawling into light. The first winter after the fallout hit harder than Olivia expected, not because of the weather, but because of the silence. It wasn't just job offers that vanished, it was invitations. Coffee meetings, industry mixers, the kind of semi-mandatory glad handing she used to mock. Even her dentist canceled an appointment with a vague scheduling conflict. The people who once called her brilliant were suddenly unreachable. She became invisible, a woman you didn't want to be seen standing next to. Her savings withered faster than she'd planned. Legal fees, rent, utilities, groceries, they all piled up. She applied for consulting gigs under pseudonyms, nothing landed. She tried temp work, too qualified. She sent her resume to a nonprofit, one that had praised her whistleblowing on Twitter, and got a perfunctory rejection email 3 weeks later. Her apartment shrank with each day, suffocating in its stillness. She left the TV off. The silence was cleaner. She slept less, paced more. She started jogging in the mornings just to feel her lungs burn, a kind of pain she could control. Then one night, something broke. She was eating cereal for dinner, her sixth time that week, when Danny knocked. Her younger sister stood at the door with a bottle of wine and a face that said, "I don't know how to help you, but I'm here anyway." Danny was an ER nurse, practical, grounded, unflinching. She hugged Olivia tighter than she had in years. "I'm not dead," Olivia muttered into her shoulder. "I know," Danny whispered back, "but it feels like you're disappearing." They sat on the floor and drank. Olivia told her everything: the bribes, the shell companies, the half-hearted investigation that stalled out when it reached a state senator's office. Danny listened, eyes hard. "You did the right thing," she said. "Then why does it feel like I ruined my life?" Danny didn't answer. She just poured another glass and handed it over. The next morning, Olivia woke to a text. It was from a name she hadn't seen in years: Jordan Ellison. They'd gone to law school together before Olivia bilayed for private sector work. Jordan had gone the idealist route: public defense, then ethics litigation. He was relentless, smart, and often too honest for his own good. "Heard what happened, need to talk, I might have something, lunch." They met at a diner in Midtown. Jordan looked older, wearier, but sharp-eyed as ever. He slid a folder across the table without a word. Olivia opened it and her heart stopped. It was a grant allocation spreadsheet, federal housing funds earmarked for a low-income project she'd worked on 2 years ago. She recognized her own signature on one of the pages, but there was an extra column this time, hidden in metadata. Shell companies, again, a different set, but the same pattern. "Different names, same scam," Jordan said, "and this time there's a kid involved." He told her about a whistleblower, a 22-year-old site worker named Lewis, who had gone missing 2 weeks after trying to report labor abuses on that project. No one had heard from him since. "This isn't just about stolen money," Jordan said. "This is about people, real people getting hurt." Olivia stared at the folder. She felt nausea rise in her throat. She was exhausted, barely keeping her own life afloat, and now this. "You want me to what, go public again?" she asked. "I want you to help me prove it, quietly for now." "I don't have a job, Jordan. I have no money, no legal protection." Jordan lined in. "You're still the only one who knows where the bodies are buried." Olivia closed the folder. She thought about the kid, Lewis, and her own name sitting on those fake spreadsheets. She thought about the silence that had swallowed her for a year. Then she met Jordan's eyes. "Okay," she said, "but if we're doing this, we don't stop halfway." A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "I was hoping you'd say that." The thing about corruption, Olivia realized, is that it's never one rotten apple. It's a barrel made of rot with fresh apples trapped inside. She and Jordan started meeting every other night, always in public places: a library, a bookstore, cafe, once even in the waiting area of a hospital ER. It was old-school spy stuff, and Olivia hated the thrill of it. The way adrenaline and fear had become part of her bloodstream again, it made her feel alive and sick. Jordan had obtained more files through a leak at the Department of Housing. Dozens of bid sheets, procurement forms, inspection reports. Olivia combed through them like a woman possessed. She saw familiar names, ghost companies using slightly altered logos, inspections signed off by engineers who hadn't worked in the state for years. And always, overbilled contracts that funneled public funds into black holes. But it was Lewis's name that kept her up at night. He'd filed a safety complaint at a job site: faulty scaffolding, unpaid wages, no permits. 2 weeks later, he vanished. His mother had filed a missing persons report. The police wrote it off as a runaway case. One detective suggested maybe Lewis had gotten involved with the wrong crowd. The wrong crowd, Olivia thought bitterly, wasn't a gang on the street. It was men in tailored suits, men with clean fingernails and dirty hands. Jordan made calls, poked old contacts. Olivia tracked down Lewis's supervisor from the project, a wiry man named Darren who lived in a trailer an hour outside the city. They drove there together, pretending to be journalists working on a labor feature. Darren was wary but talkative after a few drinks. "Yeah, I remember the kid," he said, "smart, too curious for his own good." "Did anything unusual happen before he disappeared?" Olivia asked. Darren stared at the floor. He started asking where the payroll money was going, said his checks were bouncing. "Next thing I know, someone from up top calls me and says, 'Don't talk to the laborers about finance, not your job.'" And then he stopped showing up, never came to get his last paycheck, but Darren hesitated. "But what?" "I saw him maybe a week later, late at night. He was getting into a black SUV, didn't look voluntary." Jordan and Olivia exchanged a glance. Darren lowered his voice. "You didn't hear that from me, I got kids." They left without pushing further. Back in the car, Olivia gripped the steering wheel so tight her knuckles went pale. "This is bigger than I thought." Jordan nodded slowly. "We're past construction fraud, this is organized crime." For a week after that, Olivia couldn't shake the paranoia. She kept checking locks, avoiding routine, unplugging her router at night. She'd gone from industry darling to ghost hunter. But a breakthrough came when she dug into a contractor listed on 5 separate city housing projects, a company called New Harbor Logistics. No website, no reviews. Registered office was a warehouse in Queens that looked abandoned on Google Street View. She drove there on a Tuesday at 11 a.m., armed with nothing but a phone camera and guts. The building was still standing, but it wasn't empty. Inside, she saw crates, machines, workbenches, and men, rough-looking men. She snapped photos from across the street and left fast. That night, she showed Jordan the pictures. He stared at them for a long time before speaking. "This isn't a logistics company," he said. "This is a laundering front. And the city's paying them millions," Olivia added. "Through people who know exactly what's going on." They were circling something dangerous now, something raw and feral beneath the polished surface of city contracts. And it wasn't just about Olivia's redemption anymore. It was about justice, for Louis, for the thousands like him, invisible, exploited, erased. But with each new thread they pulled, Olivia could feel the walls tightening. Emails bounced. Jordan got followed once, a man tailing him in a nondescript sedan. Olivia's car alarm went off in the middle of the night 3 times in 1 week. Then one day, she came home and found her front door cracked open. She froze. Nothing inside was missing, not her laptop, not the folders, but someone had been there. The chair by her desk was slightly turned, a mug had moved, a subtle warning. They were being watched. That night she didn't sleep. She sat on the floor with a baseball bat across her lap, heart hammering, eyes fixed on the door. She'd always known truth had a price, but now she was starting to wonder if she could pay it and survive. Olivia filed a police report about the break-in, knowing full well it would go nowhere. The officer who took her statement barely stifled a yawn, jotting down notes with the indifference of a man who'd already filed her under paranoid whistleblower. No forced entry, no stolen property, no case. Jordan was furious. "They're probing, testing how far they can scare you." "They don't need to scare me," Olivia muttered. "I'm already there." She took the rest of her documents and stashed them in a safety deposit box under a false name. Another copy went to a journalist she trusted, Marla Ruiz, an investigative reporter known for chewing through corruption like it was stale bread. They met in a parking garage, not for drama but necessity. Marla didn't want her newsroom traced to the leak just yet. "Off the record," Marla asked. "For now," Olivia said, "I just want someone else to hold the fuse." Marla whistled low when she saw the files. Jesus, this could bring down half the development board. "Start with the names at the top," Olivia said, "then go sideways." Marla nodded. "If this is real, we'll publish, but be ready. Once it's out there, it doesn't go back in the bottle." "I'm counting on that." Back home, Olivia sank into the couch and stared at the ceiling. It was all unraveling, not just the fraud, her sense of self. The person she'd once been, who smiled through meetings and closed deals and said things like "we'll circle back," was gone. Now she was something else. She started getting anonymous texts, blurry photos of her walking down the street. A note slipped under her door, "Stop digging." She showed them to Jordan, who insisted she stay with him for a few days. She agreed not because she was scared for herself, but because she was starting to dream about Louis. In her dreams, he stood in half-finished buildings with no face, surrounded by smoke. Jordan's apartment was cluttered but safe. Books everywhere, papers stacked in aggressive little towers. He cleared a space on the couch for her to sleep. Their conversations turned quieter, more human. "You ever think about quitting?" Olivia asked one night. Jordan tilted his head. "You mean law?" "No, just all of it, letting the rot win." He didn't answer right away. "I think about it," he said finally. "But then I think if no one fights, it doesn't stop, it just gets smarter." Olivia nodded. She didn't believe in heroes anymore. But she believed in people like Jordan, tired, stubborn people with just enough conviction to keep pushing. 3 days later, everything changed. Marla called, her voice was tense. "Someone leaked the story early, not us, not you. Someone else got nervous and ran to the press with a half-baked version. It's all over local news, your name in it." Olivia's blood ran cold. "What?" "They're painting you as the source, which is technically true, but now it looks like you're going rogue. The companies are denying everything. The mayor just gave a press conference saying he's deeply concerned by the allegations, which appear politically motivated." Politically motivated. It was the same script, but now with more venom. Then her phone rang again. "Danny. Liv, are you okay?" Olivia tried to keep her voice steady. "Yeah, why?" "There's a guy outside my building, black car, he's just sitting there, I think he's watching me." Olivia felt something split inside. "They're going after family now," she said to Jordan after hanging up. "They're done warning me, this is escalation." That night she moved Danny to Jordan's apartment, just to be safe. The three of them sat on the floor like kids in a storm, phones off, lights dimmed. This is war, Olivia said. I thought I was just exposing fraud, but it's deeper, it's systemic. And now they want to bury me. Jordan leaned forward, then we go nuclear. He laid out a plan. A public hearing was coming up, the State Ethics Committee. If they could get one key city inspector to testify, a man Jordan had been quietly pressuring, the whole scheme might crack open. But they needed Olivia to testify too. If you speak at that hearing under oath on record, Jordan said, you can't be silenced, not easily. Olivia looked down at her hands, they were trembling. I'll do it, she said. Even if it ruins what's left of your career. She met his eyes. What career? The state ethics hearing took place in a sterile government building with pale walls and buzzing fluorescent lights that felt hostile by design. Olivia sat in the hallway outside the chamber, palms damp, heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. She wore a dark blazer that didn't quite fit anymore and shoes that hadn't seen polish in months. Across from her, Jordan paced like a man waiting on a verdict. Danny sat beside Olivia, silent, supportive, a fixed presence amid the chaos. When her name was called, Olivia rose slowly. It felt like she was walking into a furnace. The room was crowded, lawmakers, aides, reporters, spectators. Cameras blinked. Microphones lined the long table. At the center sat the committee chair, a woman with the expression of someone perpetually unimpressed. Olivia was sworn in, then she sat, cleared her throat, and began. I'm Olivia Serrano, former procurement officer for Whitmore and Lane. I'm here today because public trust has been broken and I was part of that machine. She expected the room to buzz, but it stayed quiet, cold, watching. She explained the shell companies, the phantom laborers, the forged safety reports. She named names, provided figures. She referenced emails, invoices, contracts she had submitted as evidence. I didn't want to believe what I saw, she said, because I had built my life on that system, but once I knew I couldn't unknow. And when I reported it internally, I was threatened, not just with losing my job, but with losing my voice. The committee asked questions, polite but sharp. Ms. Serrano, why didn't you come forward earlier? I did internally, it was buried. You expect us to believe this was done at the highest levels. I don't expect belief, she replied. I brought proof. There were moments when her voice cracked, when she gripped the table so hard her knuckles turned white, when she wanted to scream not out of anger, but from the crushing weight of being disbelieved for so long. But she held. Then the turning point came. The inspector Jordan had been courting, Gregory Malik, was called next. He was late. Olivia feared he wouldn't show. But then the door opened, and there he was, shoulders hunched, eyes sunken but present. Malik sat down and said 7 words that cracked the room open. Yes, I falsified reports under pressure. Gasp, scribbling flashbulbs. He detailed phone calls from city officials, pressure from company reps, even threats to his pension if he didn't play ball. He corroborated Olivia's data point by point. By the time the hearing adjourned, the committee chair's expression had shifted from icy to grave. She thanked them both formally, but there was weight behind her words. Outside, reporters swarmed. Jordan shielded Olivia with his coat. Danny grabbed her hand. You did it, she whispered. You actually did it. But Olivia didn't feel triumphant. She felt hollow. That night, back at Jordan's apartment, the three of them sat around a table littered with takeout cartons and water bottles. The TV droned in the background with coverage of the hearing. Then Olivia's phone rang, unknown number. She answered. A male voice, low and strained. You don't know me, but I think you saved my life. Who is this? She asked, heart thudding. I'm Lewis. I've been in hiding. I saw the hearing. I know now I'm not alone. Olivia stood slowly, stunned. Her mouth moved, but no sound came. I want to talk, he said, but we have to be careful. The line went dead. She looked at Jordan and Danny, her face pale. It's him, she whispered. Lewis, he's alive. Lewis was skittish when they met, and rightfully so. They chose a bus station at dawn where travelers blurred in and out like ghosts and security cameras were plentiful. Olivia spotted him instantly, thinner than his photo, hair cropped short, shoulders tense beneath a weathered hoodie. He looked like someone who had been running not for days but for months. He approached her slowly, hands visible, eyes darting everywhere. Are you wired? He asked. No, Olivia said gently. Are you? He gave a thin, humorless smile. They walked to a diner a block away. Lewis ordered coffee but didn't drink it. He kept his hands wrapped around the mug like he needed something solid to grip. I worked the East River site, he said. 16-hour days, no breaks, no harnesses. I saw 2 guys fall. One broke his leg. They sent him home with $100 and told him not to talk. And when you reported it, Olivia asked. They called me a troublemaker, then I got threats, first just words. Then a guy followed me home. I left that night. Louis bounced around shelters, sleeping in stairwells, working under fake names. But he'd kept everything: pay stubs, text messages, even photos of injuries and damaged gear. Evidence, he said, for if I ever met someone who gave a damn. Olivia sat in stunned silence. Every story he told matched the paper trail she'd uncovered. He wasn't just another whistleblower, he was the missing link. Jordan met them halfway through the meal, sliding into the booth with his legal pad and his cautious stare. Louis flinched when Jordan reached into his coat for a pen. "We want to protect you," Olivia said, "but you have to go on record." Louis hesitated. "They'll come for me." "They're already looking," Jordan said softly. "But if we get you on video in sworn testimony, they can't make you disappear, not without drawing fire." Louis nodded slowly. 2 days later, in the basement of a sympathetic journalist's house, Louis recorded his testimony. It was raw, emotional, and damning. When he finished, he looked at Olivia. "You think this will matter?" "I do," she said, "because truth spreads, even when they try to kill it." Within 48 hours, the video was online, published by Marla's newsroom alongside a detailed exposé linking city officials, contractors, and fake companies across 7 years of development projects. The fallout was nuclear. Indictments rolled in. A city council member resigned. The CEO of Whitmore and Lane issued a trembling denial before disappearing from public view. Investigations launched at both the state and federal level. But not everyone went quietly. Jordan's car was broken into. Danny's apartment was tagged with spray paint, "Rat Family." Olivia received a funeral wreath in the mail. Still, they pushed forward. Louis entered protective custody under a new name. Olivia made public appearances with Marla, speaking on panels, giving interviews. For the first time in a year, she walked into rooms where people stood up, not because they feared her, but because they respected her. One morning, Jordan handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" she asked him. He smiled, something overdue. Inside was a business card, matte black gold letters. "Serrano Ethics Consulting. Integrity, audacity, truth. You're starting your own firm," he said. Olivia blinked. "Is this a joke?" "No, it's a beginning." She laughed, the kind of laugh that sounded like air breaking through after a long dive. The firm started small: a laptop, a folding table, a shared office with a law student named Maya who brought her coffee every morning without asking. Clients came slowly at first, then more steadily: nonprofits, unions, even city departments looking to clean house. Olivia advised on transparency audits, internal controls, whistleblower protections. She had seen how the system worked, and now finally she was being paid to fix it. One night, as she sat alone in the office, the city lights glowing beyond the window, Olivia stared at the wall across from her desk. There was no plaque, no awards, just a photograph she'd printed herself. Louis smiling, alive. She leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and let the silence settle. Not fear, not grief. Peace. But peace, she knew, never stayed long. Because truth always made enemies. A year passed. In that time, Olivia Serrano became something unexpected. Not a martyr, not a ghost, but a name people whispered with cautious admiration. She wasn't famous. She didn't get book deals or a seat on cable news panels. What she got was better credibility. The kind you earned when you'd bled for the truth and didn't flinch. Cities across the country began calling Serrano Ethics Consulting for help with cleanup, not because they wanted to, but because the scandal she exposed had sparked something. Other whistleblowers came forward, quietly, nervously, desperately. And Olivia listened. Louis, now safely relocated and working under a new name, sent her a message every few months. Never long, just a photo from his new life, a coffee mug, a soccer game, a new pair of work boots, each one proof that survival was possible. But not everyone fared so well. Charles Whitmore was arrested, released, rearrested. He vanished from headlines when his health declined. The investigation that had once felt like a flame now burned lower, slower. Bureaucracy moved like molasses. Half the men who should have been prosecuted slid through cracks, shielded by legal loopholes, campaign donations, and carefully crafted PR. Olivia knew the system didn't fall in a day. But sometimes it cracked loud enough for the world to notice. One evening, she stood outside City Hall watching the new mayor deliver a speech about transparency reforms. Her name wasn't mentioned. It didn't need to be. She wasn't looking for credit. She was looking for signs that the soil she'd scorched had been planted with something better. Behind her, someone cleared their throat. She turned and saw him, Marco. Her ex. He looked older, not in years but in weight, as if regret had etched itself into the corners of his mouth. "Hi," he said. Olivia didn't speak. "I saw your name in the news again," he continued. "Didn't know if you'd want to talk." She crossed her arms. "Why now?" Marco looked down. "Because I was wrong. I left when you needed someone. I told myself I couldn't handle the war, but the truth is, I couldn't handle watching you be braver than me. Olivia stared at him. She didn't feel anger anymore, just clarity. I needed someone who could hold the line, she said, not disappear when it got loud. I know, he said quietly. I just wanted you to know I see it now. A long silence. Then Olivia offered a faint smile, not warmth, acknowledgement. I hope you're well, Marco. He nodded, took a step back, and disappeared into the crowd. She stood there for a while longer, the noise of the city pulsing around her. In the distance, a busker played violin, something soft, almost mournful, and Olivia felt something shift. She wasn't trying to get her old life back anymore. She was building something new, harder, scarred, but real. Later that night, she returned to her office. On the desk sat a letter, handwritten, no return address. Inside was a simple note. Thank you for not being silent. Some of us can breathe because of you. No name, just that. She placed it beside Louis's photograph, then turned to the window. The city was loud, brutal, alive. And it was listening.